The first time it happened was in 2005, 2 years after I joined the United States Air Force. You see, I was a linguist at the time, and part of being a good linguist was staying up to date on all that was going on in the world. So what happened, you might ask? Well, I'll tell you. I sat down and I watched the news on purpose. I watched the news on purpose and I learned about what was going on in the world. And what's more, after that first intentional encounter with the news, I developed an insatiable desire to dig deeper into the day's international headlines. One day, I turned on the news and I saw people gathered in protest against bullfighting. They were in front of a Plaza de Toros in Spain. Well, needless to say, my curiosity and my interest were piqued. I had to learn the history of this Spanish tradition and why it incited such controversy. To get to the beginning of bullfighting, I had to go back in time, way back. It all started back in the ancient days, in the year 711 AD, when the Moors invaded the Iberian Peninsula in the south of Spain. It is speculated that in order to pass the time and to take a break from fighting each other, the Moors and the Christians would show how brave they were by challenging the fiercest animal around, the Iberian bull. This bull became the animal of choice because, unlike other animals, the bull chose to stay and fight rather than to flee. This proved to be so entertaining that the people began capturing the bulls and bringing them to town so that everyone could experience the spectacle. Bullfighting became more of an art form and less brutish as time went on. By 1133 AD, the first modern corrida, which means bullfight, was born. In this era, noblemen fought bulls on horseback. That is until the 1550s, when King Philip II spoke out against bullfighting in the first recorded protest. He declared that anyone of nobility who takes part in a corrida will lose their high-ranking status. This left the corrida to common Spaniards who developed the corrida as it is still performed to this very day. The main characters in a corrida are 3 matadors, or bullfighters, 3 banderilleros, the assistants to the matadors, 3 picadors, who fight on horseback, and of course, los 6 toros, the 6 bulls. The corrida begins with all of these characters except the bulls entering the ring to traditional paso doble music. Then the first of 3 phases begin. In the first phase, one matador, dressed in his traje de luces, which is that really fancy and expensive outfit that they wear, remains in the ring and the first bull is released from the toril, the bullpen. The matador performs a series of passes using the Veronica maneuver. Bulls are colorblind and will charge anything that moves without provocation. So since the cape is moving and not the matador, the bull will charge the moving cape and the audience will be wowed. After this, the second act will begin. In the second act, the banderilleros and the picadors are the stars of the show. First, the mounted picadors come out and they lance the bull, normally 3 times. After the trumpet sound, the banderilleros come out on foot to place 2 banderilleras, or brightly colored barbed spears. They place them in the bull's shoulders in order to get the bull to lower his head for the final phase of the fight. In the third and final phase of the fight, the matador returns in all his glory. This is the most thrilling and also the most dangerous phase because the matador must try to entertain the audience by performing more dangerous passes and getting closer and closer to the bull's horns. The danger is exponentially increased because by this time, the bull has begun to realize that his true enemy may be behind the moving cape. The matador will use 4 different maneuvers. The first is called the trincherazo, which is performed on one knee. The second is the pase de la firma, where the matador stands completely motionless as the cape passes in front of the bull's nose. The third is called the mano latina, which is performed with the cape held behind the matador's back. Then, the fourth and final move, called the natural, is when the matador takes the sword in his hand and the cape is made much smaller, tempting the bull to charge the larger target, which is the matador. After enough successful passes have been performed, it is time for el momento de la verdad, or the moment of truth. This is when the matador delivers the final fatal blow to the bull by plunging his sword in between the bull's shoulder blades when his front feet are together and vaulting over the bull's back. This is a very difficult task, and it is when the charging bull has the greatest chance of goring his challenger to win the fight for himself. Recently, there have been many protests against bullfighting. Protesters say that bullfighting is inhumane and cruel because they torture the animals. However, supporters argue that the bulls used in bullfighting are treated better and kept alive longer than bulls slated for the slaughterhouse. They also argue that the bulls are killed within 20 minutes and that they are still eaten and not wasted. Bullfighting has been banned in some areas of Spain, even though Spain's government has recognized it as an artistic discipline and cultural product. So, as we can see, controversy over bullfighting continues to this day. I hope that my summary of the history of bullfighting was both informative and interesting. Also, I hope that you are paying attention because there will be a quiz on this tomorrow. Gracias!